The United States military just experienced what Pentagon insiders are calling the most coordinated, sophisticated sabotage campaign in modern American history. In a single 48-hour period, 19 American military installations across 4 continents reported simultaneous security breaches, critical infrastructure failures, and devastating equipment sabotage that has crippled operational readiness at an unprecedented scale. The Trump administration has declared a national security emergency. Intelligence agencies are scrambling to contain what they now confirm represents the activation of Iranian sleeper cells that have been embedded within America's global military infrastructure for years, waiting patiently for exactly this moment. What the mainstream media is calling isolated incidents is actually a meticulously orchestrated campaign of asymmetric warfare that exposes the terrifying vulnerability of American military supremacy in an age where the battlefield extends far beyond conventional front lines. The numbers are staggering and the implications are catastrophic. At Ramstein Air Base in Germany, the largest American military facility outside the United States, sophisticated cyber infiltration disabled the air traffic control systems for 6 critical hours, grounding 73 combat aircraft, including F-35 Lightning II stealth fighters and KC-135 Stratotanker refueling aircraft. At Naval Station Rota in Spain, fuel contamination affected 200,000 gallons of JP-8 jet fuel, rendering the entire supply unusable and stranding the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group without adequate refueling capacity. In Djibouti, Camp Lemonnier experienced simultaneous failures in water purification systems, backup generator infrastructure, and secure communications networks that forced the evacuation of non-essential personnel and suspended all tactical operations. At Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, the central node for American air operations across the Middle East, classified mission planning computers were compromised by malware that intelligence analysts confirm originated from Iranian cyber warfare units. The sabotage extends to Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean, where sophisticated explosives damage the fuel pipeline infrastructure that supplies B-52 bombers and strategic reconnaissance aircraft. This is not random chaos. This is surgical precision executed simultaneously across the entire architecture of American global military power. What makes this campaign truly devastating is not just the tactical damage, but the strategic revelation it represents. For years, American military planners have operated under the assumption that forward-deployed bases, hardened facilities, and layered security protocols provided invulnerable platforms for power projection. The Iranian operation has shattered that assumption completely. These attacks did not come from external missile strikes or aerial bombardment that American defenses are designed to counter. They came from within. They came from trusted contractors, local employees with security clearances, maintenance personnel with years of unblemished service records, and in some cases from individuals who passed every background check, every security screening, every polygraph examination that American intelligence agencies could devise. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps has demonstrated something that should terrify every Pentagon strategist. They have successfully embedded operational assets inside the most secure American military facilities on Earth, and those assets remained undetected until the moment of activation. The implications are almost incomprehensible. How many more sleeper cells remain dormant? Which facilities have been penetrated? What other infrastructure is compromised? American military commanders are now questioning the security of every installation, every contractor, every local employee at hundreds of facilities worldwide. Before we continue with the full details of how this operation unfolded and what it means for American military capabilities, I need you to understand something crucial. The mainstream media is already spinning this story to minimize the damage and protect the narrative of American invincibility. They are calling these incidents isolated technical failures, random coincidences, or attributing them to equipment malfunctions rather than coordinated enemy action. What I'm about to share with you over the next 40 minutes is the real story that Washington desperately wants to suppress. The truth about how Iranian intelligence services spent years methodically compromising American military infrastructure while Pentagon officials officials remained completely blind to the threat. If you value understanding what is actually happening in this new era of warfare, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications so you never miss the truth that mainstream outlets refuse to report. Share this video with everyone who needs to understand how dramatically the strategic landscape has shifted. Let's dive into the complete picture of the most successful sabotage campaign in modern military history. The sophistication of the Iranian operation becomes clear when you examine the timeline and methodology. Intelligence reports now confirm that cell activation occurred within a 6-hour window across all 19 targeted facilities. This level of coordination requires years of preparation, secure communication networks that evaded American signals intelligence, and operational discipline that prevented any premature compromise of the network. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps Quds Force, the elite unit responsible for external operations, has demonstrated capabilities that rival or exceed those of any intelligence service on Earth. They identified vulnerabilities in American contractor vetting procedures, exploited gaps in security protocols at third-country nationals employed on American bases, and maintained operational security that defeated the combined resources of the CIA, NSA, and Defense Intelligence Agency for what now appears to be at least 5 years of active preparation. The methodology varies by target but follows consistent patterns that reveal sophisticated operational planning. At Ramstein, the cyber infiltration exploited vulnerabilities in the air traffic management system that contractors had warned about for 18 months, but which budget constraints and bureaucratic inertia had left unpatched. The Iranian operatives did not need to hack impenetrable firewalls. They simply waited for American negligence to create the opening and then exploited it with precision. At Naval Station Rota, the fuel contamination involved insider access to storage facilities combined with chemical agents that rendered the fuel unusable without creating immediate detection through standard quality control procedures. The contamination only became apparent when aircraft engines began showing performance degradation, by which time the entire fuel supply had been compromised. This required detailed knowledge of fuel chemistry, storage procedures, quality control timing, and the specific vulnerabilities of JP-8 jet fuel. The operatives were not simply saboteurs. They were trained technical specialists who understood American military logistics with the same depth as the engineers who designed those systems. Camp Lemonnier in Djibouti represents perhaps the most audacious element of the campaign. The simultaneous failure of water purification, power generation, and communications infrastructure required coordinated action by multiple embedded operatives working in different facility sections without direct communication that might be intercepted. Intelligence analysis suggests the operatives used dead drops, pre-positioned equipment, and carefully timed actions synchronized to external signals that American counterintelligence never detected. The sophistication rivals Cold War espionage operations that took years to plan and execute. But here is what makes the Iranian approach truly revolutionary. They did not rely on ideologically motivated agents or recruited turncoats who might waver or betray the operation. They embedded individuals who maintained perfect cover for years, living normal lives, performing their jobs with competence that earned trust and security clearances, waiting patiently for activation orders that might never come. This represents a fundamentally different approach to intelligence operations. The Iranians are not trying to steal secrets or gather information. They are pre-positioning the capacity to paralyze American military power at the moment of their choosing. The Al Udeid Air Base compromise carries particular strategic significance because this facility serves as the nerve center for American air operations across the entire Middle East theater. The malware inserted into classified mission planning computers did not simply steal data. It corrupted mission files, altered targeting coordinates, and inserted false intelligence into the planning process. Pilots who loaded mission packages discovered mid-flight that navigation waypoints were incorrect, threat assessments were falsified, and target coordinates did not match actual geographic locations. 3 separate missions had to be aborted mid-flight when pilots recognized the discrepancies before reaching hostile airspace. One mission proceeded with corrupted data and only avoided disaster when the pilot's combat experience allowed him to recognize that the supposed target coordinates would have placed munitions on a civilian hospital complex rather than the intended military facility. The Iranian operation nearly succeeded in making American forces commit a catastrophic war crime that would have generated global condemnation and shattered coalition support. This goes far beyond simple sabotage. This represents weaponization of American targeting systems to transform American military power into a strategic liability. The Trump administration's response has been chaotic and contradictory in ways that suggest genuine panic rather than coordinated crisis management. The president declared a national security emergency, but then immediately downplayed the severity during a press conference, claiming the incidents were minor technical issues being resolved quickly. Meanwhile, the Pentagon issued orders for immediate security reviews at 375 military installations worldwide, suggesting they recognize the threat extends far beyond the 19 facilities already compromised. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced the suspension of all contractor access pending complete security recertification, a measure that will paralyze maintenance and support operations at bases that depend on contractor personnel for 70% of their workforce. The State Department quietly issued orders for American embassies to activate emergency evacuation protocols for non-essential personnel, a step typically reserved for imminent military conflict or revolution. Intelligence agencies have requested emergency funding allocations for counterintelligence operations with budget figures that remain classified but which congressional sources describe as unprecedented in peacetime. The collective response reveals an American security establishment that has suddenly realized it faces a threat for which it has no prepared playbook and no clear path to mitigation. European allies have responded with barely concealed alarm that borders on panic. German officials at Ramstein discovered that Iranian operatives had been employed at the facility for 7 years, passing every security screening implemented by both German and American authorities. This revelation has triggered immediate review of all third country nationals employed at NATO facilities, with German Interior Ministry officials privately expressing shock that American security procedures failed so catastrophically. Spanish authorities are investigating how fuel contamination occurred at a facility supposedly protected by multiple redundant security layers, with preliminary findings suggesting the operation required access to technical specifications that should have been classified. Qatar has quietly begun its own investigation amid concerns that the Al Udeid compromise may have involved Qatari nationals, potentially implicating the host government in either incompetence or complicity. Britain has suspended intelligence sharing protocols pending American assurances that secure communications networks have not been compromised, a step that effectively acknowledges loss of confidence in American security infrastructure. The alliance fractures are emerging exactly as Iranian strategic planners would have designed. American allies are questioning whether association with the United States has made them targets for Iranian asymmetric warfare capabilities that their own security services cannot counter. But here is what makes this entire situation truly devastating for American strategic positioning. The sabotage campaign has revealed that Iran can strike American military power anywhere on Earth without firing a single missile, launching a single aircraft, or deploying a single naval vessel. They have demonstrated the capacity to paralyze American power projection through asymmetric methods that American military doctrine has no effective counter for. The United States spends $786 billion annually on defense. The entire Iranian defense budget is approximately $25 billion. Yet, with a fraction of American resources, Iranian intelligence services have achieved what no conventional military could accomplish. They have made American military commanders question the security of their own facilities, doubt the loyalty of their own workforce, and hesitate before conducting operations from bases that may be compromised. This is the essence of asymmetric warfare mastery. You do not defeat the enemy through superior firepower. You defeat them by making their superior firepower irrelevant. The economic implications extend far beyond immediate repair costs. Every American military facility worldwide must now undergo complete security review involving background investigations of thousands of contractors and local employees, physical inspection of all critical infrastructure, and comprehensive cybersecurity audits of every network and system. The Pentagon estimates this process will require 18 to 24 months and cost between $12 and $15 billion. During this period, operational readiness will be degraded as facilities divert resources to security rather than mission capability. Contractor suspensions will create maintenance backlogs that degrade equipment readiness. Training operations will be curtailed to conserve resources while security reviews proceed. Intelligence collection will be compromised as adversaries recognize American distraction. The Iranian operation has achieved something remarkable. For approximately $50 million in operational costs spread over 5 years of preparation, they have imposed a $15 billion burden on American military infrastructure while degrading readiness for nearly 2 years. This represents a return on investment that conventional military spending could never achieve. Iran has demonstrated that intelligence operations targeting infrastructure vulnerabilities generate far greater strategic impact per dollar spent than missiles, aircraft, or naval vessels ever could. The cyber warfare dimension reveals capabilities that American intelligence agencies completely underestimated. The malware deployed at Al Udeid was not crude code developed by amateur hackers. Forensic analysis reveals sophisticated architecture with multiple redundancy layers, adaptive evasion protocols that adjusted to security responses, and self-destruct mechanisms that activated when discovery became imminent. The code incorporated zero-day exploits that the NSA did not know existed, suggesting Iranian cyber warfare units have achieved capability parity with the most advanced state actors. What makes this particularly alarming is that the malware appears designed for long-term persistence rather than immediate damage. Intelligence analysts believe the code had been embedded in classified systems for at least 14 months before activation, gathering intelligence on American operational planning while waiting for the optimal moment to execute its sabotage mission. This means Iranian intelligence services have been reading American classified mission plans, targeting data, and strategic assessments for over a year. They know American operational priorities, target lists, tactical preferences, and strategic vulnerabilities with the same clarity as American commanders themselves. The intelligence advantage this provides is almost incalculable. The response from Iranian officials has been characteristically calculated and revealing. The Iranian Foreign Ministry issued a statement denying any involvement while simultaneously noting that American military facilities around the world have created legitimate security concerns for nations forced to host them. The statement emphasized Iranian commitment to international law while suggesting that nations harboring American military infrastructure should reconsider agreements that make them targets for conflicts they did not choose. This diplomatic judo transforms Iranian sabotage into a legitimate grievance against American imperialism. The Revolutionary Guard issued its own statement through unofficial channels praising what it called the legitimate resistance activities of oppressed workers at American military facilities who have awoken to the injustice of serving imperialist occupation forces. This framing provides plausible deniability while celebrating the operation's success. Iranian media outlets have covered the story extensively, emphasizing American vulnerability and strategic incompetence while portraying Iran as the victim of American aggression, who merely defends itself through creative asymmetric responses. The narrative management demonstrates sophisticated information warfare that complements the physical sabotage campaign. The global energy markets have responded with the volatility that typically accompanies major Middle East security crises. Oil prices spiked 12% in the 48 hours following the sabotage revelations as traders recognized that American military capacity to secure Persian Gulf shipping lanes may be degraded. Natural gas futures in Europe jumped 18% amid concerns that American security guarantees for Mediterranean energy infrastructure may be unreliable. The Iranian rial actually strengthened against the dollar for the first time in 18 months as currency markets recognize that Iran has demonstrated strategic capabilities that may force American accommodation. Gold prices reached record highs as investors sought safe haven assets amid uncertainty about American military credibility. The economic impact of psychological warfare becomes apparent in these market responses. Iran has not actually disrupted energy supplies or attacked shipping. They have simply demonstrated the capacity to do so while American forces are distracted by internal security crises. The market reaction suggests traders believe Iranian capabilities now exceed American capacity to counter them. This perception shift carries implications far beyond immediate price movements. It suggests the fundamental architecture of dollar-based energy markets may be vulnerable to Iranian strategic pressure in ways previously unthinkable. What comes next represents the crucial question that American strategists are grappling with behind closed doors. The immediate security reviews will consume resources and attention for months, during which Iranian planners will be analyzing American responses to refine their own capabilities. Every security measure implemented reveals information about American detection methods, which Iranian intelligence can incorporate into future operational planning. Every contractor removed from access provides learning opportunities about what triggered suspicion, allowing Iranian services to adjust their embedding procedures. Every cybersecurity upgrade reveals detection capabilities that Iranian cyber units can study and evade. The defensive responses necessary to counter the current threat actually provide intelligence that enhances future Iranian operations. This creates a strategic spiral where American security improvements generate adversary learning that requires additional security improvements and endless escalation. The cost-benefit ratio favors Iran at every iteration because defensive security is exponentially more expensive than offensive sabotage. The broader implications for American global military posture are profound and destabilizing. For 75 years, American power projection has rested on the foundation of secure forward-deployed bases that provide platforms for rapid response to crises anywhere on Earth. The Iranian operation has revealed that this foundation is built on sand. If American commanders cannot trust the security of their own facilities, cannot rely on their own infrastructure, and cannot verify the loyalty of their own workforce, then the entire concept of forward deployment becomes questionable. The alternative is fortress mentality with American forces concentrated in heavily secured continental bases, but this abandons the rapid response capability that justifies massive defense spending. The third option is acceptance of permanent vulnerability with acknowledgement that future operations will occur from compromised platforms against adversaries who know American plans before they are executed. None of these alternatives preserve American military supremacy as it has been understood for generations. Iran has forced a fundamental rethinking of how American power projection functions in an era where the homeland versus forward deployment distinction has collapsed. The Trump administration faces impossible choices with no good options. Escalating militarily against Iran risks operations launched from compromised bases using corrupted intelligence against an adversary who has demonstrated superior intelligence penetration of American facilities. De-escalation rewards Iranian aggression and signals that asymmetric attacks succeed in forcing American accommodation, inviting further operations. Maintaining current posture accepts permanent vulnerability, while Iranian cells remain embedded in American infrastructure, awaiting future activation. Abandoning forward bases confirms strategic defeat and abandons allies who host American facilities. Every option carries catastrophic risks and provides Iranian planners with strategic victories regardless of American choices. This represents the culmination of years of patient Iranian preparation meeting American strategic arrogance. The United States built a global military infrastructure assuming adversaries would challenge it through conventional means that American superiority could defeat. Iran instead challenged the infrastructure itself, exploiting the vulnerabilities inherent in systems so vast and complex that perfect security becomes impossible. The Persian concept of chess mastery involves controlling the board rather than capturing pieces. Iran has demonstrated strategic chess mastery while American planners were playing checkers. The historical parallels are instructive and ominous. The British Empire maintained global military supremacy through fortified bases and naval power that seemed invincible until nationalist movements demonstrated that bases become liabilities when local populations turn hostile. The Soviet Union deployed massive military resources across Eastern Europe that appeared overwhelming until infrastructure failures and internal contradictions revealed systemic vulnerability. Every dominant power in history eventually discovers that the infrastructure enabling supremacy becomes the weakness that adversaries exploit. The United States is now living through its own version of this historical pattern. The difference is that American decline is happening faster and more comprehensively than previous imperial transitions because modern technology amplifies both power projection capabilities and the vulnerabilities they create. Iranian intelligence services have demonstrated mastery of these dynamics in ways that should terrify anyone who understands the implications. This is not the end of American power, but it may be the beginning of the end of American supremacy as the organizing principle of global order. What you have just learned represents information that mainstream media outlets are actively suppressing or minimizing. The full scope of Iranian capabilities, the extent of American vulnerability, and the strategic implications for global power dynamics are being hidden behind narratives of isolated incidents and technical malfunctions. If you found this analysis valuable, you need to share it with everyone who deserves to understand how dramatically the world has changed in the past 48 hours. Hit that like button to help push this content past algorithmic suppression. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you receive future analysis as this crisis continues to develop. Comment below with your own thoughts on how this reshapes Middle East dynamics and American global strategy. The community we are building here represents informed citizens who refuse to accept establishment narratives and demand the truth about the forces reshaping our world. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next analysis as we continue documenting the decline of American empire and the rise of the multipolar world order that is replacing it.